10,000 BC was directed by Roland Emmerich in 2008, and at its core, this is just a generic action movie. Let me give a quick plot summary. Dali is part of an ancient mammoth-hunting mountain tribe. An oracle, who is referred to as Old Mother, reveals a prophecy that tells of disaster and a love between a brave man and a blue-eyed girl. When the disaster finally happens, Dali has to go rescue his fellow tribesman and Evelyn, the blue-eyed girl. Traveling to many different places, Dali must battle an unknown world in order to defeat the kidnappers. This movie has many historical inaccuracies. We'll only go over a couple to spare you the time. In this movie, we are shown pyramids. Now, while personally I believe the pyramids are there to show that this movie takes place many years ago, the pyramids weren't even being built until 2630 BC. Now, the movie doesn't give a specific time we're in, but more than likely we're in the year 10,000 BC. That's a pretty big time gap between them making of pyramids and 10,000 BC. The boats in this movie are also quite incorrect because these boats are incredibly advanced when boats weren't really a thing until 8000 BC, and they were pretty much the equivalent of logs in the water that you would paddle. These boats also have fully functioning sails, and they look like they're dyed red. These are two things that are incredibly impossible. Dyes weren't being deployed until about 2000 BC, and sails wouldn't have even been a thing until fabric was being spun, which would have been during, well, about 2000 BC again. There are a lot more things this movie did wrong, but like I said, I'm not going to waste your time going over the incredibly large list of incorrect things. So let's talk about some of the things that this movie actually got right. Old Mother is a great example of how older cultures, like the ones that are shown in this movie during the year 10,000 BC, would have been like. A kind of oracle-like prophet that can apparently see the future and communicate with unknown forces would have definitely been something that you would have seen in these old tribes. Along with this, the use of bone and stone tools also would have been a more authentic thing, because metal tools wouldn't have been used until about 1,000 years later, and these tools would have primarily been copper. Now, while there are more things this movie did kind of do correct, it vastly is undershadowed by the amount of things it does wrong. So, I mean, it really just tells you that you need to do research on movies that are about history. In conclusion, 10,000 BC isn't really that good. It's pretty inaccurate history-wise, and the few things it does get right are few and far between. I really wouldn't recommend this movie unless you want to show people and how to do a bad history movie and a bad movie in general. This movie wasn't good.